Hello, everybody. First of all, apologies for my late arrival. So we are 25 minutes late. Apologies for that. But we are here. And um, today's topic is what role does work have in our life? It's an important topic, and everybody asked that question, especially me. I was asking this question for myself 1 minute ago. But it's good to have you all here, and especially Silvia and Charles. So, good evening, Ms. Gibbons. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. Taking all the things that are a bit trying lately, but we soldier on, as they say. Nice to see you both, and I hope things are not too bad. But we still have some time to talk about something important, so it's nice to be here with you.
Yeah. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Stevan. Bonsoir, Silvia. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yeah, very happy to be here again. No worries, Stevan. I was in the same situation not so long ago, but one day, sooner or later, as per the law of labor, we have the right to stop working. And to work differently on our ideals. And that's also one form of labor.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Due to our time constraints here, let's go straight to our discussion. So, work. Work, it is an activity we need to do in order to polish ourselves. Uh, when we are in the spiritual world, we work. When we are incarnated, we work. The difference, when we are incarnated, we need to work in order to receive money because in the incarnated world, money it is the machine that moves everything. When we are in the spiritual world, we don't need money, but we need to do our work, do our job because we want to evolve, we want to learn. For those who read the book No Solar, you saw André Luiz have to work in order to win the bonus hour to get some compensation to see the family, to do more things. So we have to work elsewhere. The problem is when we either don't want to work or we work too much. Saying this, Charles, why, in your view, we need to work?
Yeah, it's a very simple question, but not so simple to answer.
Yeah,
Interestingly, you told about money. We have to work to get money. But even when you think before the money was used in the civilizations, yet still we have to work. Huh? Work for what? But to get food, to survive, law of conservation, to defend ourselves, to protect ourselves, building houses or arranging caverns or whatever. Huh?
hmm,
So the work is really something universal. So to answer more accurately to your question, why do we need to work? I would say mostly, I mean, when we talk about physically, because we are incarnated in a physical body. And that's exactly the key for understanding. We are. Why do we incarnate? We incarnate to progress, as we have answered already. So we incarnate in the material world, in a material body, and this material body has some needs: food, security, well-being, which are necessary for our physical body. So this is inducing us to work. And when we think about what is the result of the work, it's a mean to improve our intelligence. It's a mean to think about. It's a mean to construct, to organize, to analyze, to do better, and so on. So that is exactly why we incarnate, to evolve, and one of the driver for the revolution is the work or the labor. Okay, so that's, I would say, simple answer to a complicated question.
Mhm.
But okay, without work, we would stay like children. Okay, when you look to the humanity since the no, prehistory, we are obliged to work, and this work has always fostered or encouraged the progress, what individual progress, but also collective progress. Okay, so indeed, the law of labor is one natural law, is one necessity, and is one key driver for our uh, preservation first, and for our evolution.
Mm. Yes. And you, my dear Gibbons, I know this today was an important day for the UK as Labour Party assumed the control of the country.
God help us.
So I think that's appropriate our topic today.
Yeah,
So
well,
what's your view about the work, my dear?
well, I think work, it's a very interesting topic, really, if you think about it, because um, I think work is very, very important because if anything, it gives a person who works a sense of being useful. It's a necessity. We know that, the Spirit's book, the Spirits teach us that the labor is a necessity, is what we need to grow, to improve, to develop spiritually. And the more civilized we get, the more we need to work because we create much more needs for ourselves. But this is part the of the parts of being human, and is part of the evolution, because through work is when we want to facilitate our lives, we want to create things, so we develop the intelligence, we develop new inventions, things are created. And if you see, in time of crisis, when something happens and there is great need, always great inventions will come that will ease the work, that will make things, that new ideas will come, how to facilitate this, how to do that. And it's interesting you talk about labor, because one of the proposals is to nationalize again the railways, which, is a very nice plan on paper, but where are you going to get all the money? And it is one of the very interesting things, because if you think about England and the industrial age, the development of things, how we create, and the railways was one of the things that was invented during the Victorian times. And funnily enough, steam itself was invented by the Romans, but they used to use steam for toys. They used to build toys for children. But then in the 19th century, they have a different use for steam, not only the railway, but also the machinery. Most of the machinery is all dealt with steam and everything. And it completely transformed the world. I mean, I remember my grandfather in Brazil, he worked for the railways, and all the railways had been built by the British. You had all these English names in the railways, you know. Um, so, and they built railways everywhere, and it was an immense progress. And so sometimes, you know, when we will develop new ideas, and labor is part of this process of a spiritual evolution, of the development of our intelligence. And even animals work, but they work in a way of just preserving their lives, their children. They are unconscious of it, but they also have to, you know, they have to forage, they have to hunt, so they themselves are working. So this is very important, because the one thing as well, do you know how sometimes people say, oh God, I work so much, my job is so difficult, it's so terrible, you know, to drive there, to come back, and all this kind of things, very difficult. Sometimes we complain about it, but when we have no jobs, it's worse, you know. Then we don't even have that to complain, and the worry, how are we going to pay the rent, how am I going to support my children, how am I going, this is a greater worry. And you know, people who don't work, they lose something. um you know, sometimes people say to me, oh, why don't you retire, you know, you are old. But I'm still working, you know, not every day, but I'm still working, and I really enjoy it. I really do. Give me a sense of purpose. And I think basically that work, you know, ultimately does to you, give you a sense of purpose, make you feel useful, make that, you know, you look at your day and you did work, and especially if you are conscious and do the best you can at work, and do, you know, develop the work and do it properly with the best of your abilities, it gives you a sense of fulfillment, of achievement as well. And you learn so many things, relationship with other people, new skills, you know, like this morning, for instance, you know, I had this, because I had to have a new computer, because, you know, with all the upgrades now, our computer was a bit older, like 3 4 years old. So I had to go to the office yesterday and have all this set up and everything. And when I came home today, it wouldn't work. You know, there was no VPN or anything. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? What can I do about this? Because I couldn't communicate to them, because you do everything to the computer. So I try to phone somebody to help me and everything. But then I started fiddling here and there. And then I set up the network and I did everything. And I thought, oh my God, how wonderful. It gave me a really, you know, it's a stupid thing. It's a simple thing. I'm sure people who work in computers do this very easily, but it was quite, you know, a journey for me. But I felt so happy that I was able to get to know it and find what to do and actually do it and start working on it. So I think it's a sense of joy as well, work, you know, like I had to, because I was able to make the computer work and set networks and everything. So I think that basically, you know, besides of evolution, intelligence and everything, and us as a spirit, as progressing, you know, we'll go to a higher world, that the work will be more according to the needs and everything. But everybody works. And just to conclude this, I mean, there is a passage in the Gospels that Jesus says, my Father, I work and my Father still works. And, you know, when we study, when we read, we know that God is constantly working, is constantly creating. And we, as part of the creation, we are also creators. So that's a destiny, and that's important, and it's very good as well. And in a level, gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment. So I think it's extremely important. And there is a whole chapter on the Spirit's book about the law of labor. So it must be important, isn't it?
Wow, yeah. Law of labor. No, great. Good explanation, my dear. It makes huge sense. Um, it's interesting to see, and I think you touch a point is very valuable. Everybody complaining about the work, but it's gonna be worse without the work. Um, Many people say, "Oh, you need to work in whatever you have a passion." Yeah, but when our passion transform in an obligation in a work, it's not a passion anymore. So we need to learn how to balance. Like you said, God is working all the time, is creating. So we need to find our balance because we need to work. Doesn't matter type of work. If you have a bonus hour compensation, if you're gonna have a money compensation, or if you have anything else as a compensation, we needed to do our job because we feel our responsibility. It's like it's like I don't know. It's like someone who forgets to press a button, and without pressing this button, a lot of people gonna be without internet for a while. Everybody gonna complain. Everybody gonna be mad. But while we have our internet, our broadband working perfectly, nobody thinks that are a lot of people behind working to allow you to sit comfortably in your chair, in your computer, and go to the internet. Same thing for everything we do. Want to travel, yeah, but we do have a pilot, flight attendant, the crew, the landing crew. So we have everybody's working to allow you to have your moment of pleasure. So this is the balance. Once we understand our responsibility, I am like, oh, what's the difference between a CEO and the garbage collector? Just the salary. Stay a month without being your garbage being collected. What the mess is gonna happen in front of your house? Smelling. That's that this is work. That's the responsibility. So whatever role you are, just assume the responsibility you need to exercise in that moment. I am responsible for this. I will do my best in order to do my activity. I will be efficiently and effectiveness while I'm doing it. Because people, even though if you don't know, there are some always there is someone uh, 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 hoping you accomplish your duties in order to start their duties or in order to complete their duties. So, Charles, law of labor, it is one of the laws we have in nature. We have to do it. We need to labor. So, what we need to do in order to acknowledge these and get this responsibility to ourselves and say, okay, I need to work. I am responsible for this. How to get it? How to get this conscious that whatever you do, you are important in whatever you are doing.
Yeah, I mean, you told it right already, Steven. I think garbage collector or caregiver are extremely important. We had examples during the pandemics, where garbage collector and caregiver and the hospital and the doctors or whatever did not stop working. Why? Because even taking risk for their life, continuing to work. And this is where we see how it is important, uh, how we are interdependent in the society between humans. And every type of work is very important. You told what is the difference between a CEO and a garbage collector is a salary. Yeah, maybe not only. There is also another difference. One has, I would say, more physical work, and the other one has a little bit more intellectual work. But both are forms of work. Physical work is making you tired. So that's why for heavy physical works, there are special law of labors to protect these people who are working hard. Huh? And on another hand, intellectual work is also uh, bringing, when in excess, some difficulties. You can be also tired mentally, so your brain does not operate as you would like. In some situation, even you can have burnout or something like this, which is also due to the excess of work. So, as you told it twice already since the beginning of this life, it's all a question of balance. Uh, I would put myself, okay, I don't want to work, I'm lazy, and so on. Really, it would be heavy in my conscience to be like that. Because work is also developing the sense of responsibility. huh? You have a mission, as Silvia told it. It gives you a meaning in life. It gives you a purpose. So you are doing something. Of course, that's the ideal case, because not always. Sometimes the people are working and they don't really feel the the usefulness of what they are doing. But if we can really have this feeling, it is really bringing very big satisfaction. Even if we are tired, okay, we did something good. We have co-created, as we say, because we brought something to our society. Society is working for us. We are working for the society. huh? It's a win-win situation. Everybody collaborating with the others, everybody helping. This is how we grow individually, and the society, as a resultant of the sum of the individuals who are composing the society. Society is then also evolving and growing. Okay, so that's basically it. There is the limit of the forces are the limit of work. Everyone is free. You have people working more, some other working less. We have seen, for instance, in some regimes in Eastern Europe some decades ago, where there has been a kind of forcing to levelize all the people at the same level. The one which are working at the same level of the one which are more lazy, and the result was not good. It was somehow demotivating the one who were working, and at the end nobody were working anymore, and it was how to say, uncomfortable for the whole society. That's why this regime ended in Eastern Europe, and the people came with satisfaction, putting more in practice this law of labor, using also the law of liberty that we talked about not so long ago. Okay, so that's one thing. Then there is also another aspect about the law of labor. It is how to say, sometimes we the question of slavery. So to force someone to work more than really reasonable. So that's also wrong. Okay, the one who is imposing excessive work to somebody else or to children, for instance, is really misdoing. It's something that sooner or later, it's something against the law of nature, against the law of liberty, that this person will have to bear the consequences for it. Will be responsible for the excess of work imposed to others. And we can see it already in our societies. Sometimes some managers which are pushing too hard on some of their employees, and then increasing the rates of problems, even suicide, which is very unfortunate, or problems like burnout. And clearly, there are a lot of laws now in our juridically in order to refrain, to limit these types of things, and even for the consumption. For instance, a lot of things that we are using today are being produced in other countries where the laws are not the same. But this is now more and more difficult, and more both the laws of each country and the laws, the incentives for our consumptions are pushing us to have sustainable, green, ethical consumption origin, and avoiding anything that is produced, for instance, by excess of works imposed to children. Okay, so these are somehow the limits. But okay, again, you told it very right, Stevan. It's a question of balance. No war is not good, and no work is not good, and too much work is also not good. So it's up to each one. You have some which have more working capacities than the others, but the essential is really to use our will in order to progress, because that's at the end the ultimate goal of the work is to help us to progress, both materially in the society where we are living, and principally our soul, because that are the values that we are keeping with us, leaving the material things for our children and grandchildren, and even for us when we reincarnate as the sons of our grandchildren.
Yeah. Gilson da Gama, he wrote, doing our role the best way, with love and respect to others, make us walk in the right road. We all have a bond. Emmanuel teach us. Yeah, you're deadly right, Gilson. We need to put our passion on it. We needed to. I think it's when we have this sense of the responsibility, changes everything. So when our dear friend Vanessa Celone is saying it's so interesting when people say work-life balance, as if work is apart from life. Wonderful. Yeah. So, dear Silvia, you want to comment about something work-life balance?
I what I yeah, I mean that's exactly the point that I was making, because work makes you feel useful, gives you a purpose in ordinary level, not thinking about the evolution of the spirit or anything like that. It gives us a sense of purpose, and that's what we need. That's what makes our life livable. That gives a sense of purpose to live a good life and to learn things. But there is in the book The Consoler, Emmanuel, they ask a question to the spirit Emmanuel, and he said, how does the incarnate spirit acquire experience? And the answer was very simple, as usually the high spirits always give very simple answer and very to the point. And he says the struggle and work, they are essential to the betterment of the spirit, as the material bread is essential to the maintenance of the physical body. It is working and struggling, suffering and learning that the soul acquire the necessary experience in his march towards perfection. I think, it's impossible for us not to work. And the fact, I think Charles sort of pointed out as well, the fact that a person may have lots of money does not exclude them from working, and it also gives them an extra thing, because if they don't have to struggle for money to work to survive, they have the obligation to help others. And I think, in a sense that you can build the industries, you can create things, you give jobs to people so people can come to work and feel useful. It's better than giving money in charity if you allow them to work and to learn skills and everything. So, and I mean, I know of some rich people and they work very hard. I mean, if you think about in terms of money, they probably wouldn't need to work, but they have a sense of purpose. And I always found that was very interesting, because you put a full day, work, and sometimes even more hours. So I think there is this thing, because work is life, life is work, is what makes us into the spirits that we are going to be, is all part of us. So I think work as well is learning. If you go to learn a new skills, a new language, learn, if you go to, I remember some friends of mine, they were retired, but they used to go to school for flower arranging, cake making, bakery. They are constantly working and trying to do things. And they were the nicest people you could imagine. Every day they had something nice. Oh, we went to our class today, we learned to make eclairs, so they would bring this delicious eclairs for us. It was
Wow, how
really good.
much?
So that's the whole thing. Work, I mean, it's like Vanessa says, life is work. Is the struggle of every day. I
Yeah,
find it important for all of us to do it, really.
yeah, it's there is. I heard a long time ago that I don't know if there's a story or as far as I know, there is a kind of guru. He says that the man uh, work working in order to get health. Then they spend the money he earned in order to recover the health. The work is not apart from life. Work, it is part of our life. It's part of our duties. Even though when you are home on a Sunday, or you work. You need to clean your house. You need to make the garden, Charles. No, we need to make the garden. We need to go to the forest to get some some wood for the fireplace, put it to dry for the winter. So you need perhaps to paint your house. You need to fix your car. Like me as a taxi driver during the weekends. Dad, it takes me there. Dad's collect me here. Taxi take my friend there. So I'm a taxi driver during the weekend.
To be a
No,
dad is to suffer in paradise.
exactly. So we are working. We are working. So the only difference is doing these activities, we are not getting paid in money, but we receive, it is a better quality in our life. So you are living in a tight place, in a clean place. Your car is running without any problems. Or during the winter, you have enough wood to burn and keep your house warm, keep your family warm. It is a payment. It is what we say as action and reaction. That's it. For every action, we're always gonna have a reaction. This is how it works. So let me see. Let me see if we're having
You are
any
totally
other
right,
message.
Steven. And so I worked 42 years long. So now, after 42 years, I had the right to retire. So I retire. Uh, I had a friend, a colleague of he retired a couple of years before me. He had really problems. He got depressed after stopping working because he was just turning in circles and missing something. And luckily, 1 year after him, his wife retired as well. And then he got very good again because his wife came. Oh, today you do this, tomorrow you do that, not you do this, and later you do that, whatever. So he's well again because he's working. But without work, he was depressing. In
Yeah.
my case, it was a little bit different. I had a big part of professional work. And also work like we are doing here. It's also a form of work. Scanning, disseminating, analyzing, making researches for our ideal, whatever, making speeches as we do here is also a part of work. So as soon as I had the right to stop, it was just before the pandemic. It was a kind of a special situation. I had the right to stop that. Immediately, there is no void in nature. Immediately, the time was filled with a lot of other activities. And I do not yet have some grandchildren, but this may also come to add some other activity. And today in France, it's recognized if the people retiring are really driving a lot of things, to be, how to say, in the municipality for non-profit organization and so on. Most of them are driven by people which are retired. So it is another example. Okay, we need some professional work. There are some laws with the increase of the life expectancy where you get some more time of life after the professional work, this work-life balance, as Vanessa told. And in my case, the transition was very smooth. I was fully loaded before retiring, and I'm still continuing fully loaded after retiring. Loaded differently, yet still loaded. And this is also something which we can, when we analyze the evolution of the work along the time. When you look at Kardec's time, or even before, begin of 19th century, you had 4 times more people working in agriculture, for instance, than people working in industry and services. So for one person working in services and one person working in industry, you had 5 working in agriculture. Yeah. So this evolved a lot. So the industry and the service, of course, was developing, and the agriculture was more or less stable until, how to say, the first half of the 20th century, where the number of people working for agriculture started decreasing. And why is that? I was listening to my grandfather telling me how it was to cut the, when you have this to harvest whatever, planted potatoes or anything else. the whole village, including the children, went there in order to remove them. And the change was, there are some engines, some machines, and now you have two people doing what at that time needed hundreds of people to do. But what was the it was a transition of the hard work in the field, uh, partly to the industry and partly to the services. And in the second half of the 20th century, there was also another change in the industry itself. You had robotics, bigger machines, and so on, which made also decreasing the number of workers in the industry. And today, when we look for this, take a year 2000, when we started the 21st century, for one people working in agriculture, you had 10 people working in services and something like 3 or 4 working in industry. So there was a huge change. And the next change, which is still coming now, is IA. A lot of people working in services, doing repetitive tasks on the computer and whatever, will be replaced by IA or some other new tools. So question is it good or is it not good? What will all these people working today in services do? No? Spiritist is not against the progress. Spiritist is always in favor of the progress. Someone doing repetitively always the same time the whole day in front of the computer, 7 hours a day, 35 hours a week, and whatever, is also painful. So if we can replace asking humans to do this type of work by asking IA to do this type of work, then we can do more interesting work. What IA cannot do, and there are a lot of things that IA cannot do yet. So there is huge potential for all these people to continue having works. And of course, there are also some periods when there are some economic crises, for instance, you have high unemployment and so on. So people even willing to work, not finding work, and this type of situation are more difficult, painful when this is happening. Yet uh, uh, we need to organize ourselves in order to overcome these periods which are a little bit more difficult. So you have some unemployment assistance and so on. So we progressed a lot in all these things. Of course, there are still some hard work. I can see it right now because there is a construction work here where I'm living. And really, when it's 35 Celsius and you have heavy stones to carry or whatever, of course, they have a lot of machines, but not all can be done by machines. So there are still some very heavy works. But when we see, it's really less and less. And the work, I would say, gets a little bit less material and a little bit more intellectual. And the trend which will come will be to have the work a little bit more spiritual, in the field of the spiritual intelligence, by solidarity, by fraternity, by helping, care, and so on. So that's it. And when we look, as you told also very wisely, Stevan, No Solar, the movie, we talk a lot about this movie during these emissions. But you can see André Luis, okay, you are here in No Solar, fine, good, you have having good time, recovering from the difficulties you passed and so on. Okay, but now what shall I do? And you see, most of the people there are also working different tasks. So even in the spiritual world, of course, it's not material work anymore, but it is this famous spiritual work and intellectual work that we continue performing even when we are not in the material body anymore. Okay. But at our level of evolution, we still need to incarnate, having a physical body with all the constraints linked to it, in order to stimulate us to work and to stimulate us to progress.
Good, good. And uh, my dear Silvia, in order to finalize, we have a question from Lou VM here. Can we understand a work and useful activity?
Yes, absolutely. Everything that we do is an activity, is a kind of work. And I think in question 674 of the Spirit's book, when Kardec asked the Spirit, is the necessity of labor law of nature? And then the Spirit's answer, the labor is a law of nature. It's proved by the fact that it's a necessity and that civilization obliges man to perform a greater amount of labor because it increases the sum of his needs and of his enjoyment. So anything that is useful, I think sometimes people used to think that housewives didn't work, you stay at home. But I don't know if anyone ever stayed at home, especially if you have children. There is a lot of work to do, and is a unending work, cleaning, cooking, doing the washing up, washing
Education.
clothes, and every day is the same. So it's a lot of work. But any activity that's useful, that you do because it needs to be done, or because there is something that there, it's useful work, it is activity, it is work. I find that when there is this very old expression, the devil finds work for idle hands. This expression, and I think we have a very similar expression in Brazil as well. I think these kind of things are universal. Exactly, because if you don't have anything to do, you always find something wrong to do. So that's why it's so important to plan and do things that are useful for yourself and for others, and if you don't really need, then you can help others who have less. You can teach them, you can go to courses, you can learn things. And it's very, very important, I think, because, everything that was said today, but also most importantly in the level that we are now, is look back on your day and said, I've done something, I've achieved something. And it's also an antidote to depression, to feeling as if you're not worthy. When you are out there, when you're achieving things, you feel better with yourself, and this is very important. And like Charles saying, the society now has new challenges, because like before he said, you had to have the whole village coming. Oh, I think in France they still have the people collecting, harvesting the grapes, don't they? Because some of the grapes have to reach too important to just put the machines on them. And but I remember this lady I used to know, this English lady, and one of her memories, her happiest memories, was to go with her family to, at the time of strawberries, they used to go to the fields and get the strawberries, so because they needed to be going very, very quickly, because they go off very quick. So they had to go to work. And she said sometimes they wouldn't go to school because they would get paid a little bit to go and harvest strawberries. And she remembers it as being an incredibly funny and enjoyed time, her memories of collecting strawberries. So I think it's very important for all of us. It's part of, is a law of nature. So by itself is a necessity that we have to do. And if we do something that we love, it's, they say, if you do what you love, you never work in your life. But also to do everything we can with love and try to do our best. And that's, I think, is very important and is what make a life really worth living, I think, at the end of the day, if you think about it.
Yes. And anyway, we needed to do our activity. Doesn't matter. Any health, any activity we do, as long as it's for the good, it is a work. Always will work for someone. Okay, I think that's it for us today. It's getting a little bit late for Charles. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I
So
have to work tomorrow morning early,
yeah,
exceptionally.
Yeah.
yeah. Let me just show here our topic for next week, 24th of July. Are men equal? Is there a law that guarantees equality? Interesting topic. Probably Munir will be here replacing me or Elsa, but it's a wonderful topic to discuss, and I'll see you next week. So I want to say thank you to Luviem e Gilson, our dear Vanessa Anceloni, Patrocínio José. So thank you very much for your inputs, for your comments. Also, thank you, Charles, for your time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Silvia, for your time. Apologies for my late today.
Okay.
And I'll see you all in 2 weeks, but Charles and Silvia will see you next week. Okay? Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
God
God
bless
bless.
everyone.